But now I think there's issues of securitization, even the road maintenance levy fund, issues of having sufficient funds for projects that have been a backlog. In terms, if you look at the budgets, let's say for the development projects, we have only about 100 billion every year. If you look at our needs for our roads, we have not paved most of our roads, require almost 5 billion. If you look at that backlog in looking forward, we might not be able to provide sufficient infrastructure, which is required for development of this country. We live with PPP, especially on our main corridors where the traffic volumes allow for us to toll. I think that's the way to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like also to call upon Engineer Kinoti to make an intervention. Engineer Kinoti is the Director General of Kenya Urban Roads Authority.
Thank you very much, CS, Treasury, PS is present, and colleagues, everybody, good morning. Thank you, PPP Director, for organizing this symposium. We have been working with you, and you can say we have done 2 successful projects, which are now in O&M. That is the annuity lot 15 and annuity lot 18 for roads in central and western Kenya. We have learned our lessons learned, and we feel that if you continue this way, engaging, we will be able to use the lessons learned for us to improve the space for PPP projects in infrastructure in Kenya. I know that is the way to go, so that you can be able to offer enough affordable infrastructure for our people, especially in urban areas where we feel that the issue of congestion, urbanization, the challenges you are facing, and the resources you have internally may not be adequate for us to be able to address all the issues which are required for us to offer services in the urban setup. So we are ready to share the lessons learned in the projects which are already implementing, so that you can be able to develop more and more projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Finally, Harrison Sungu, I think you are here on behalf of the Managing Director of Ketraco. Where is Harrison? I thought, yeah, there. Can you just give me the microphone so that he can make his response?
Mine is to say thank you to the organizers of this forum, and also look to recognize colleagues from PPP Directorate. I think Magara, Cecilia, and Dennis Yegon. Maybe you can just stand up and wave to the rest of the team. Thank you. And also Ketraco colleagues who have been working on that project. I can say that it took a lot of collaborative efforts, not just from the public and the private side, but also within the public side. We've seen a great cohesion between the contracting authority and the government, especially the National Treasury. So if not for this cohesion and everyday learning from each other, I don't think we would have reached this milestone. And it's just one of the key milestones. We still have a long way to go. It is a journey that has just started. So let's not tire for now. We still have quite a chunk to do for these projects. And with other projects also, congratulate the other teams, both the contracting authorities and the National Treasury again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think in the interest of time, we may not take the Q&As at this stage. We shall have breakaway sessions after this, so I think within those sessions we shall still have an opportunity to ask questions and get responses. So at this stage I would like to call upon the Director General, the Director General of PPP, Engineer Kefaseda, who is going to invite the next people to speak.
Good morning once again, and thanks Onyonying for leading us through that intervention session. PPP works. We've had testimonies. Do we have challenges? Yes. Do we have misses? Yes. Can we improve on our transactions? Yes, we can improve, and that's what we'll endeavor to do. Behind that, we've got a team that has been working on this. Before I call the peers, if you are from the PPP Directorate, 1 second, stand up, we recognize you, urudi uketi chini. From the PPP Directorate? Team from the PPP Directorate. These are the faces behind the support of what we do. Asanteni sana, ketini chini. Now I take the honor to welcome on stage the PS National Treasury, Dr. Chris Kipto, to make his remarks. Thank you.
Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Economic Planning, Honorable Mbadi. We have also a CS. I see most people have not recognized her. Honorable Beatrice Moe Askul, the Minister or the Cabinet Secretary for EAC, ASALS and Regional Development. I also recognize fellow PSS who are here. Their names have already been mentioned. The members of the PPP Directorate, I will be introducing you shortly. Heads of government agencies and departments, representatives from private sector, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Hamjambo. Assalamu alaikum. It's a privilege and an honor for me to address you this morning as we convene in this symposium for PPP. It's a time when we are facing as a country very tight fiscal space. Some of you may have seen the budget. The last budget that was read, it was a 4.3 trillion. And you saw the number that we expect as revenues, about 3.4 trillion. So you work out, clearly we have a budget deficit of about 4.8% of GDP, slightly around 900 billion, sorry. In that 4.3 trillion, we have a recurrent of 3.1. And in that recurrent budget of 3.1, interest payments alone for debt that we have taken is 1.1, including pension, that goes to 1.3. So the budget, what we have allocated for development is about 673 billion. And yet we have huge requirements for our budget to meet infrastructure development. So it's a time when we are leveraging more on PPPs, because at least we can be able to do a number of projects without having to fund from the budget. So let me say that, as you saw in the presentation, we have made very good progress over the last decade in terms of policy framework, building the policy framework, the regulatory framework, the legal framework for the PPP. And we have streamlined our project preparation cycle and built strong institutional capacity. Through the work of the PPP Directorate and the support of our development partners, we have moved from policy to implementation. Today, we have several landmark projects across many sectors. I think you saw the presentation that the DG made. We have 37 projects in the pipeline, and 6 of them are in the road sector. You saw one is in Kera, load 36. Is it 38? 33. And then we have 2 in Kura. We have 1 in Kenha, the Nairobi Expressway. And there's one that is coming up for the Rironi Mau Summit Road. And yesterday I had a friend of mine who I was waiting for to have a meeting in Nairobi. It took him 7 hours to arrive. And he was really feeling bad that he took so long. So I think it's one of those projects that we really are going to focus on to shorten the time. You can imagine what losing 3 extra hours on the road. We have, in the energy sector, we have 5 projects. You heard from the director mentioning here. We have 3 generation projects, 35 megawatts of power, and then the Menengai project. And we also have solar. I think there's one of the counties that is coming up with a solar project, that is Wasendishu County. We have a number of housing projects, and really I don't want to go through many of them, but last Friday I had the privilege here to visit Galana Kulalu, and we passed through Bura. We saw the sugar project that is coming up under PPP. And we visited also the one in Galana Kulalu. Clearly, it's one project that I saw PPP works. And we are really going to give all the support required. CS, I just want to say this, that as chair of the PPP committee, I'm proud to say that we have really done well as a committee, because if you look at many years back, we really didn't have many projects being approved. It's now that you are beginning to see projects going on. We have also our lessons that we have learned. For instance, the JKIA project. You can imagine, JKIA is 10 years behind its schedule of development. JKIA was built in 1978, designed for 7.5 million passengers. The last I saw is that we had about 9 million passengers that went through that airport, which is not in a good state. We need a second runway. We need another passenger terminal. And so I'm challenging the ministry responsible to still work very hard to make sure that we bring back that project, because that project cannot be financed through budget. It requires $2 billion. That's 260 billion at the current exchange rate. You can see what we have in the budget this year, 670 something for development. So clearly that's a project which is commercially viable that ought to come back for consideration under PPP. So I just want to finish, because yes, I don't want to speak too much here. You will speak more. I want to introduce members of the PPP committee who are here. If you can stand, please. I am the chair of the committee, and we have PS for roads, Engineer Joseph Mbugwa is a member of the committee. We also have Honorable Shadrach Mose, who is the Solicitor General. I don't know if he's here. We have Mheshimiwa Taki Masharia, he's a member of the private sector committee. We have Stephen Maloa, who has been our member for many years, and we have co-opted him again. We have Ngatia Kirunge, I don't know if he's here. We also have PS Planning, Dr. Boniface Makoha. And then we have PS Odede, who is the PS for Public Investments and Asset Management. We have also co-opted the PS Public Investments, Abu Bakr. I don't know if he's here. And yes, I think I want to just conclude by saying that as we proceed with today's agenda, let this be a symposium that is more than just making speeches. We really need to see how to build the partnerships we require, because we need to move forward with a number of projects under PPP. Before I welcome the CS, I would like to welcome Honorable Omar Shurie Abdi, who is a member of parliament for Balambala, but more importantly, for the purpose of today, he's the chair of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee. Just a minute, you greet this gathering. Karibu Mheshimiwa. And I will ask you to, so that we save time, you welcome the Cabinet Secretary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, PS. I know you've bestowed an honor to welcome the Cabinet Secretary, but I hope that will not mean now become part of the executive. and get into trouble because I'm supposed to oversight him. Mheshimiwa Waziri of Treasury, Mheshimiwa Mbadi, Mheshimiwa School, Waziri wa Assam, PS Treasury, DG, PPP, and all PSS. For me, it's just to say, hamjambo. I think I'm glad that this symposium has been made because I chair the public debt, privatization, and the PPPs. And I'm sure, as most of you know, the discussion now is about debt, PPPs, privatization. So it's a tough job. But I think we will work together so that we can realize the benefits of PPP on this matter for the greater good of this nation. So, Mheshimiwa Waziri, let me not take time, give you the floor so that I can invite you to come and make your speech and tell us about the PPP and everything about Treasury. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shuria. Let me first start by recognizing that in the House, we also have my cabinet colleague, my sister, Askul, who is in charge of East African Community Affairs and also ASAL. I hear people call you Waziri wa ASAL, but I think you are more than that. So, Mheshimiwa could just stand and wave so that they can know that I also have companionship here. She's the only one from the cabinet who has joined me today. And also there is my friend, Chief Registrar, Winfreda Mokaya. Please wave in the crowd. She's also here. I think the rest have been recognized. So I'll give my speech in two sections. I'll start with the official speech, written speech, and then, of course, I'll do off the cuff. But I'll be careful not to go the direction many of you suspect I may go. I can see my DG is worried. I'm not going to go that route. So let me start with my official speech this morning. My cabinet colleague, the Honorable Askul, the PSS present here, including those from the National Treasury, and I have two of them present. I have three in total. Two of you are present here. Other PSS present, partners from the public and private sectors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my pleasure and privilege to speak to this distinguished gathering on an issue that is central to the success of our national development agenda, and that is deepening collaboration between the public and private sectors to ensure the success of public-private partnerships. It cannot be contested that development is as much about the quality of human life as it is about the quantity of economic development. People place much capital on what they can measure in order to quantify the quality of their lives. It is no wonder that Declaration on the Right to Development recognizes the right to development as an inalienable human right by virtue of which every human person and all peoples are entitled to participate in, contribute to, and enjoy economic, social, cultural, and political development, and in which all human rights and fundamental freedoms can be fully realized. This principle is also enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which places rights holders at the center of development and related governance processes by providing for public participation as one of the principles and values of governance. As we gather here today, ladies and gentlemen, we are reminded that infrastructure is the backbone of economic growth. In fact, I remember in 2007 when I was elected for the first time, the clarion call for the ODM party, which was my party, or sponsoring party that time, our manifesto was infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. 3 times. That clearly demonstrates how we had placed infrastructure at the center of economic development and growth. It is the platform on which trade flows, industries flourish, and lives are uplifted. Without quality infrastructure, our dreams of transforming Kenya into a middle-income economy, as envisioned in Vision 2030, and of course the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, can never be realized. But we must also acknowledge a reality, and the reality is this, that public resources alone are not enough to meet our growing infrastructure needs and demands, and that has been spoken to, and I will demonstrate shortly the funding gap that is there, and it is real. So the fiscal space is limited, yet the needs are urgent, from energy to transport to housing to health and digital connectivity. The needs are many and urgent. So with Kenya's borrowing space narrowing, we must adopt innovative, sustainable financing mechanisms to meet these development needs. When a government is able to foster a conducive environment for various sectors, including the economy, social development, and environmental sustainability, such a government can be described as one that is succeeding. In the backdrop I have outlined, it can justly be described as commendable the effort by the government of Kenya to propel public-private partnerships. PPPs offer a strategic pathway that allows us to sustain investment in infrastructure without increasing fiscal pressure. It is in this context that the private sector emerges not just as a participant, but as a critical partner in our journey. PPPs offer the private sector opportunity to diversify the nature of its participation in the nation's development and growth. I want to re-emphasize this point, although it has been said, that the government of Kenya requires an estimated 560 billion Kenya shillings annually to develop and maintain our infrastructure. 560 billion. But despite this need, we currently only spend approximately 224 billion shillings per year on infrastructure, resulting in a shortfall of about 336 billion annually. So through PPPs, we not only access private sector capital, but also benefit from the efficiency, innovation, and risk management capacity inherent in private sector operations. This approach will enable the government to continue delivering large-scale infrastructure projects which traditionally financed through public debt, while freeing up public resources for essential social sectors such as health, education, and water. I want to pause there a bit and remind you that in terms of health, the government has already taken a very ambitious and to me very transformative step towards universal health coverage. Recently, you've heard His Excellency the President has announced that level 1 through to 4 hospitals should not even charge a penny to patients who visit those health facilities. That becomes the government's policy, and it is an order that we must live to actualize. In terms of education, you've had discussions around capitation and how we are now reducing the cost of the school fees that is payable at the universities and colleges. And capitation, and I've spoken about this, that we need to provide more resources to be able to meet the minimum requirement according to our policy. And of course, I want to announce here that I've already invited my cabinet colleague from the Ministry of Education and his PSS, together with my PSS, to discuss on any funding gap that is there on capitation, to see how to fill that gap. I am emphasizing this so that you can appreciate that there are other social services that require our budgetary allocations, and therefore we must free resources to those very critical social services. One that I've not even mentioned, that we have a population in our, we have a good number of people in our population, some of them very elderly, who cannot even afford the basic necessities of life. And we have to provide a budget of no less than 44 billion every year for social cash transfer to these people. So then that requires that we become more innovative in financing infrastructure so that we release or free the resources to go into those social services. So in this way, PPP is not merely a financial tool, but a catalyst for sustainable development, allowing us to build modern, resilient infrastructure for current and future generations. So how ready are we as a nation? How ready are we for PPPs? Ladies and gentlemen, the normal default stance in Kenya is often that yes, we embrace good modern concepts and even legislate on the same, but are we ready to actually apply them? That is a question that everybody keeps on saying, that yes, we embrace. It's a good thing. But we are not ready. I am glad to note that Kenya is ready for PPP as an investment option. We are ready. There is no excuse. Our country's GDP is currently estimated at 124 billion US dollars, while our installed energy capacity is 3,243 megawatts, including 79% renewable energy. In addition, Kenya is well connected by rail, road, water, and telecommunication systems. The country enjoys political stability with a 5-year seamless democratic election cycle. Further, the country has skilled and educated workforce with a literacy rate of over 80% and an estimated 59% of the people in the age bracket of 15 to 64. Actually, if there is any one single asset that Kenya has as a country, what sets us apart from our peers in the region, where we have competitive advantage, it is our human capital. These are buttressed by investment-friendly legislations and a solid capital base. Domestic capital pension fund stands at over 2.25 trillion shillings as at now. Banking sector is at 7.7 trillion shillings, and a significant insurance and SACCO assets. We are determined to leverage this capital through pooled instruments to tap into the compelling opportunity for sustainable infrastructure financing in Kenya. So this is a commitment. The government of Kenya remains firmly committed to PPPs. To this end, we have established a robust legal and regulatory framework through the enactment of the PPP Act of 2021. This legislation enables the private sector participation in the financing, construction, development, operation, and maintenance of infrastructure across various sectors through a range of contractual models. Consequently, Kenya has developed a strong pipeline of active PPP projects at various stages of development, underscoring its seriousness in leveraging private sector efficiency and capital. And I think my team, which spoke ahead of me, have spoken about the pipeline projects. To complement this framework, we enacted the Nairobi International Financial Center Act, which provides a legal foundation for positioning Nairobi as a competitive financial hub. This is key to attracting and retaining global financial institutions that can support large-scale infrastructure projects. So, have we made progress? So I want to mention the following. That the favorable, conducive environment does not veil us, as the policy makers and administrators of the day, from taking stock of the realities of existing gaps or shortcomings. In a further demonstration of our dedication, the government has partnered with the private sector by facilitating the establishment of a private sector-led committee of experts, which committee I personally appointed this year. This committee is exploring mechanisms to mobilize long-term domestic institutional capital, including pension funds and insurance schemes, to invest in PPP projects. This initiative aims to establish policies for mobilizing long-term capital from local financial markets for investment into PPP infrastructure projects. So in spite of the myriad challenges that we have faced so far in implementation of PPP projects, Kenya has made significant strides in implementing public-private partnerships with 8 projects which were mentioned by the DG and others who spoke ahead, currently at implementation across key sectors of the economy, including roads, housing and energy sectors. And I actually watched my PS in Galana Kulalu over the weekend inspecting, together with the PS in charge of irrigation, looking at the project and the progress, and I think it was very impressive to see government officers seeing something that is already on the ground and not just on paper. These initiatives are already delivering tangible benefits to Kenyans by enhancing the quality, efficiency, and accessibility of essential public services. They serve as clear evidence that PPPs are not just a financing mechanism, but a transformative approach to public service delivery. They embolden our resolve to continue to strengthen and improve this angle of pursuing our national development. So I want, before I go to my off-the-cuff remarks, and then I come to conclude, to unveil new projects that have just been talked about. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am glad to announce that we are offering the following projects to the market on a competitive basis. 1, 2,820 affordable housing units across subsidized with 200 market rate units in Athi River. That is number 1. Number 2, 3,000 capacity tuition facility and accommodation facility for 800 students at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hostel in Eldoret. 3, 4,000 bed capacity student hostels for the University of Nairobi's main campus. 4, 2,000 bed capacity hostel for Pwani Teaching and Referral Hostel in Kilifi. It is my desire to see full participation of Kenyans in these projects, and I do believe we have the capacity to finance, build, operate, and maintain these projects using local resources. So before I conclude, allow me to make a few other remarks, which I promised that I would make some off-the-cuff remarks. I want to start or begin by saying that those of you who will remember, or who remember when I appeared before parliamentary committee during my vetting, there is something that I promised the people of Kenya, and that is transparency and clear communication about what is happening at the National Treasury. And that promise, I am committed to deliver on that promise. That is why we have this symposium, so that the people of Kenya can begin to appreciate and understand what PPP is all about. If you ask many Kenyans, what do they remember about PPP? And I tried when I met some business editors in my office. The one thing that you'll always hear them talk about is Adani. But PPP is not all about Adani. We have had PPPs before the Adani. We are continuing to have PPPs even post, let me call it post Adani. So PPP is beyond just a single transaction. And the other thing that you hear them talk about, and I agree with them on that, that PPP is the way to go. And it has worked elsewhere in the world. It is working in Kenya. We have evidence that it is working. It is not trial and error. We have expressway that we can boast of. A number of projects in the energy sector have been implemented and are continuing to be implemented. In the road sector, we are going to succeed big time with PPPs. Rironi Mau Summit must succeed. My team at the National Treasury through the Directorate, headed by the DG, and the committee which is chaired by my PS, and where all my PSs sit. And by the way, my PSs know they have a delegated authority. I am the one who is supposed to sit there. I am the boss of the Treasury, and they know that. So the three of them are working together to make me succeed. Kazi yangu ni kusucceed. Wao ndio wanafanya kazi. Mimi ni kusucceed tu. And so we are working on a number of projects. You have just been told 37 of them cumulatively, 34 at the national government level, and 3 at the county level. If we succeed with all these projects, it's going to reduce pressure significantly on our fiscal space. And therefore, we will have money to take care of other pressing and urgent needs, as I have just mentioned. But besides that, it would also help us manage our debt. Our debt levels had reached unsustainable levels. But I will tell you, I am very proud that we are managing our debts. Where I am today, I am very proud and confident that we are on the right track, that our debt sustainability is going to be within the levels and limits that are acceptable. Our borrowing must be put in check and in control. We have no choice to do that. You can see we have come up with innovative ways of raising money. This is just one of them. We have others. And now, something that has been a thorn in the flesh in this country of pending bills is being addressed. The road contractors who had already stopped working are back on the roads, and our roads are being developed. And this is improving the liquidity. I am happy that our banking sector, that the financial sector, they have started reducing interest rates to make resources available to the private sector to be able to invest. I am equally happy that we have got so many fundamentals right. But for us to keep these fundamentals, inflation within manageable limits, to have the correct reserve to protect this country from possible shocks, to keep that balance, to maintain economic growth of over 5%. All this for us to achieve, we must be innovative in looking for money to do our projects so that we don't put a strain on our budget, which again would lead to higher borrowing, more borrowing at high interest rates, which again would roll back the gains that we have so far realized. So we need to work together in this, ladies and gentlemen. This is not politics. This is economy. This is about our lives. Economy is about life. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. If this country is going to collapse in terms of economic progress, all of us, no one will be excluded. We are all going to suffer, even if you are rich. Even if you own the whole of Nairobi in terms of property, no one will live in those houses because they will not have capacity to pay. And that is why, because everything which is good can be made better. That is why I formed the committee of experts, because no one has monopoly of ideas. We want to work together, we want to consult together, we want to be advised also. And we are open to advice. So that is why we have, and I'm very, very impressed with the turnout of this symposium. This is clearly a demonstration of involving Kenyans in their affairs. This is the public participation. There is no any other public participation. We have involved the people. When you will now break out to start discussing the details, I want you to be as robust as possible. I have a technical team here, people who are knowledgeable, people who are experts, even more expert than I am. I know I still carry that tag of expert. But there are experts here. Kefa Seda is an expert in the room. In terms of the directorate. I know Naila is an expert here. I know Christine is an expert. I have a very strong team. And I told this directorate, when I first took up this assignment, that you will never again be footnotes at the Treasury. You must take your rightful position at the Treasury. Sawa sawa. That is where we are going. Wanyonyi, there is no time to relax. My PSS, Kipto, and Odede, there is no time to relax. We must make PPP work for us and help this country deliver. I want to now conclude, because otherwise I know I'm moving to very dangerous grounds where I will start boring you up, and I don't want to make that mistake. I can see my colleague is walking in. Actually, is the biggest consumer of PPPs. Thank you, Waziri. Thank you very much. Actually, Waziri Churchill is our biggest client as PPP Directorate. And he is going to continue to be our biggest client. Waziri, karibu. Thank you for joining me in this symposium. You can see how it is full. I was just about to conclude, but because you have walked in and you are the wearer of the shoes, I want you to state clearly how this shoes is pinching you. And by the way, you are free even to air your frustrations. You can even attack us if you feel we are not facilitative enough. I will not take offense. If I feel so offended, tutasikuya huko kwa cabinet. Lakini hapa, I'll not demonstrate that I'm not very happy. So feel free to talk anyhow. I want to invite you, even for just 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever time you want to take. I know it is an ambush, you have just walked in, but just to share with us your experience about PPP and probably where you feel you'd want us to go with you, because you hold a docket that has the roads on one side and the transport on the other, and both require a lot of support through this PPP model. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, your permission to invite my brother, Waziri Chirchir, who is in charge of roads and transport, to come forward and make a few remarks. Then I'll come back and conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Waziri. I didn't know you had such a big forum this morning. but sorry for coming late. I was a bit indisposed. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, happy to be here this morning to join you guys to basically work through understanding and what we are doing as government to improve the PPP framework and basically invite private sector to support what government doesn't have to do in light of the fiscal space, and to the extent that there are opportunities that we could allow the private sector to support us given the challenge that we face and the challenge that really in every economy resources are scarce. I think, Waziri, PPP is working in Kenya, and it has been working for a while. In the energy sector, we did PPP for the last 25 years, even though we did not quite call it that. And to the extent that really we're expiring, or the last investments, the first investments are coming to end of life, 25 years. And so having worked in that space and having moved to roads and transport, I do see a future in the PPP given the fact that we have really run on those frameworks for quite a while. In the energy sector, with the regulatory framework, we have been able as a country, I don't know whether my colleague Wandai is in the house, but in the energy sector, we have the EPRA, which basically manages the investment framework. We look at really allowing you, the investors, a return on your equity for that length of time of about 12%. And given the kind of guarantee offtake, it becomes very attractive to an extent where in the energy sector today, Waziri, we have a waiting list of investors to put in power to the grid. In the energy mix, that makes us also very attractive as a country. As you do know that today we are almost at 92% renewable. And there is a waiting list of investors almost up to the year 2040. So it's a very attractive space when we are able to prove as a country that you can put in your money, get investment, you get returns for that period of time, guaranteed returns with a guaranteed offtake. And all the programs waiting for that period of time are all bankable. And therefore, even as we move into new spaces in roads, where we are looking today at Rironi Mau Summit, we've been looking at Nairobi, Mombasa, and if we do our studies and confirm that you have got enough traffic to guarantee the kind of investment, then today we're trying to close Rironi Mau Summit. We're building, like the president did mention yesterday somewhere, that from Rironi is the end of the road that has been built from James Kishuru, just out of Nairobi. We'll be building a four-lane, two-way, all the way to Naivasha, both through the escarpment, Maimayu, and from Naivasha to Nakuru, we're building a two-way, 6-lane, and beyond Nakuru, we're building a two-way, 4-lane, all the way to Mau Summit, and later on to Malaba. And there are proponents who are currently being looked at, quite attractive. I think in terms of value of money to the users, we also concern, and that's why I mentioned about an area which is mature like the energy sector with a regulatory regime, which basically protects the users for value of money and ensures the investor gets return on their equity. Being a mature space, we encourage and have worked with people like Engineer Keva We encourage investors to basically bring in investments in the structure that makes the investment attractive. So we would normally look at a debt equity ratio of a minimum of 70-30, 70 debt and 30 equity, because of course equity is a bit expensive. And to the extent that you get a win-win and you get this kind of return on your equity over that period of time guaranteed, it makes us very attractive. So I'd like to encourage investors in the House that Kenya is a mature investment destination with programs in energy. I use that as an example because I was there for a while, having run the full life and a waiting list of many investors up to the year 2040. So it's really, we want to encourage you to look at some of these investments, because as we market some of the good investments today, you will probably not, you may not appreciate that if you come in slightly late, you might have to join the waiting list, because this is a mature investment destination. We assure you we know how to protect investments for you guys to be able to basically bring in your investment, and for that investment to work for you at those very reasonable return on your equity. So we want to encourage you to look at this destination, look at opportunities in various areas in the road sector, in the transport sector. We are looking at a new airport. We're looking at the ports. We need to really have the kind of ports that we see out there in the world and be able to kind of support this country. We're looking at Lamu for transshipment. So there are opportunities in Lamu, there are opportunities in improving our ports in Mombasa, Mombasa being a port that services the landlocked countries of Uganda, Rwanda, Congo, and even be able to do transshipment out of Lamu. So we want to encourage you to look at this destination favorably, noting that if you came in tomorrow, you might be in that waiting list of 2030, 2040, 2060, because like I said, we are an attractive destination. So Waziri, we have a very able PPP directorate. We have a PPP Act that basically looks at how to protect everybody in their space, from the user of your service to basically protecting you and ensuring that the investment you bring into this destination is secured. So great, Waziri, that you are able to mount the team to basically look at us, bring in some new foreign direct investments, and want to assure you this is a good investment destination. We'll shortly be relooking at the airport. We want to quickly, those of you who come in, do appreciate that we don't quite have an airport. Our airport got burnt sometimes in 2013, 2014, and we have tried once or twice to build, but because of our democratic space, we've had so much debate. But we are making another go very shortly to build for you guys a new airport, so that we really become that anchor state that basically attracts, and when you come in, you feel good coming into Kenya through the new airport. So Waziri, congratulations for mounting such a big team. Want to confirm that you are in the right place and look at us favorably today, not tomorrow. You don't want to be in that long waiting list where today, why are people in the waiting list? You know, investments, PPP investments would really need a market, because we want to give you some guarantee. Even if you are doing a road, you want to make sure that the road has got traffic, which will leverage your investment to give you a good return on your equity. And on the other side, we'll balance the value for money to ensure that Kenyans are not paying too much, because if there isn't enough traffic, you'll be forced to charge too much to be able to get your return. And so what does that mean? In the energy sector, we off-take, it's basically almost take or pay. And therefore, we'll only generate power that the economy needs under the least cost power development plan. And therefore, if really there is no demand for power and you generate and we are going to buy, it means it would make the cost of power high. And yet, from a value of money perspective, we must protect the user. So if you don't come in early enough and basically give us the supply which matches the demand, we run into that problem of having to tell you your slot is 2035, 2040, 2050. So it's good for you to really look at us early and confirm what we need to do together today, so that you don't have to be coming around our offices tomorrow asking us that we help you to jump the queue, because whoever came in today would be ready to deliver, say, for 2026, 2027, and yet you have a bankable project, you want to deliver immediately, but you are far down the waiting list. So look at us favorably, let's sit down and look at the various areas where you may wish to invest in and be able to progress together. Waziri, thank you so much, and happy I'm here. Sorry for coming late again. Asante. Thank you.
So, yeah, and I associate with everything that Waziri has said. JKIA must be done. So that's one of the pipeline projects. But if President Kibaki, in terms of hardware, will be remembered for Thika Highway and maybe LAPSET project that was launched during his tenure, and President Uhuru will be remembered for Expressway and possibly the SGR, I am sure President Ruto will be remembered for Ironi Mau Summit. President Ruto should be remembered for the JKIA, in my view, and even progressing SGR from Naivasha all the way to Malaba. So I think these 7 years remaining in President Ruto's presidency should help us realize that. And we are beginning with this remaining 2 years in the first term to make sure that Rironi Mau Summit is actualized, and at the bare minimum, start also our airport. So we must deliver. We are under instructions with my colleague here that we must deliver these things. I don't know why you people laughed, but that is it. Anyway, let me now conclude. So in conclusion, to our private sector partners, we welcome your ideas, your investment, and your ingenuity. Kenya is open for business, as my colleague has said, and the opportunities are vast, from roads and housing to water, health, ICT, and green energy. Now, to the public sector colleagues, let us embrace partnership, because at times we find resistance. Actually, a lot of propaganda comes from public sector players around PPP. Please don't resist. Allow it. It is the way to go, as I said. So let us embrace partnership, not bureaucracy. Let us not get into too much bureaucracy. Let us become facilitators, not gatekeepers. Let us focus not only on the process, but also on the outcomes that matter to our people. Our people want these things, not the process. No, not on the paperwork being pushed. They want to see roads. They want to see the airport done. They want to see an energy. They want to see water. They want field health facilities. And to our esteemed development partners, your technical assistance and blended finance instruments are helping us build the foundation for inclusive PPPs. We thank you and look forward to deeper collaboration. And finally, to the media, we wish to empower you through enhanced informed awareness. Nonetheless, you have the obligation of objectively reporting matters relating to PPP and other financial matters for that matter. You have an obligation members of the Fourth Estate. I don't know whether you are many here. You have an obligation to report, but objectively, on not only matters PPP, but all financial matters. Just report objectively. Can I end there? Thank you very much for listening to me, and I really appreciate the participants. I can't take this for granted. You took your time to be here. Thank you very much as we get into this partnership and as we move forward on matters public-private partnership. Thank you very much once again. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury and Economic Planning. That brings us to the end of the first session of this symposium. So we are going to break for tea and then resume at 11:30. At 11:30, we shall have breakout